Well, it's Father's Day. Thanks for joining us. I want to just begin. Would you just share, what was your dad like?
I had a great dad. We had a great upbringing. Had a wonderful home. My dad worked very hard. He was a very principled man. And I think watching the game of catch thing that we're doing later today, it just reminded me that my dad doesn't like sports at all. Never has, never will. It means nothing to him. Yet, he coached each and every one of his kids' baseball teams at least once. So he was that kind of guy.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So, if your dad's not really much of a sports guy, how did you sell him on the idea to actually, as a family, buy the Cubs?
The fact is that growing up, we had a great experience with a family business that my father started, which now has become a very, very large business. But when we were kids, it was a family business. And, companies a lot of times get too big to become family businesses. So one of the things that I emphasized with our family was if we were to buy the Chicago Cubs, it could be a family business for generations and not just for a few years. And so at first, my father was a little bit iffy on the prospect, to say the least. But he didn't really understand what it means what the Cubs mean and what Wrigley Field means and how important it is and what an incredible special place and a special vibe it creates. And then we had an event. He rented a bunch of rooftops for a party. Our birthdays are all around the same time, so he decided to do something fun for us. He'd rent a few rooftops and throw a giant party. And up on a rooftop, which I think the Cubs now own, looking out over Wrigleyville was when he really understood what I was talking about. And so then we went forward with the project, and obviously it's worked out incredibly well.
The magic of Wrigleyville, I mean, just being down there, when there is a game, when there isn't a game. In 2009, you purchased the Cubs, but then 3 years later, you lose 101 games. Did you ever have this thought like, oh no, what did we do? Or did you really firmly believe, hey, give us 5 more years, give us 10 more years, we are going to bring a World Series championship to the city?
I honestly never doubted our people. We have great leadership on the business side with Crane Kenny. He's an incredible executive. We have great leadership on the baseball side with Theo Epstein, who may be one of the best at his job ever. And, it's just something we had to do, and you just had to get through it. We had to do things the right way, like the smart teams do, and it was going to take a few years. And there were fans that weren't always all that in. I walk around the park every game. I talk to a lot of fans. People would run up, and 19 out of 20 are just very supportive. But there'll always be that one guy who'd say, "Hey, Ricketts, you're really messing this place up." And I'd be like, "Brother, what's your favorite championship? 1907 or 1908? I mean, what exactly are you clinging to?"
Right.
So I think that most people bought that over time.
Yep.
And of course, I appreciate everyone who's here today or watching today, who's ever come to a Cubs game, who gave us the support we needed to get through those pretty tough years.
Yeah. Now, when you took over, you had these old offices. I have a picture of it right here. And this was the Cubs offices. And Kenny gave you 2 gifts when you walked into these offices: a fly swatter and a mouse trap. And now, if I look at the new offices and this whole area, just the expansion. Tell us a little bit about that vision.
Well, a lot of what you're seeing here in this photo is one of the things that we set out to fix right away is Wrigley is a wonderful place to come watch a baseball game. It's the best place to watch a baseball. But it's not always the easiest place to bring your family. So we had to figure out what can we do to make it more family accessible. And one of the ideas was, let's buy this land, or take this parking lot and turn this into a little more family-friendly area. Because if you're coming to Wrigley Field with all your college fraternity brothers, it's built for speed. You got everything you need. But if you're coming with your family, it's a little bit different. So this year we opened what we're calling the park at Wrigley, which is, anyone's been down there, but it's grass, it's open, kids are running around playing
Fountains.
catch. We got fountains, which is great. Kids are running through in the summer, just running, like running through sprinklers like we were kids. So that's what this was really about. And the offices are in that building, and they're much nicer now, certainly. But that's kind of what the experience was meant to be.
Well, even the experience for the players. I mean, their old clubhouse was the smallest in the major leagues. Look at this. Now what you have brought is just this room that is just so peaceful. Like the team loves being there. So it's the family you've taken care of, but you've also created this culture of family with the players.
Well, there's a couple things in there. One is you can't tell players they're part of a first-class organization and then give them third-rate facilities. I mean, you have to express to them in a physical way that this is a first-class organization. And we closed on the Cubs, and I had never seen the clubhouse. I'd never really done a detailed tour of Wrigley Field. I walked in and my jaw dropped, and I was like, oh my God, these guys are professionals and they get treated like this.
Yeah.
So we set about building a new clubhouse. This is a photo of the new clubhouse. Obviously, it's the only round clubhouse in baseball, which also has a pro team kind of message to it. We're all in this together. No one's more equal than anyone else. It's 60 feet, 6 inches across, which is, of course, the distance from the pitching mound to home plate. And it just has a great vibe to it also. And I think it helped a little bit last year in helping us get to the finish line.
Well, let's talk about that finish line in the World Series. I want to talk about what it was like in Game 7. Because as fans, can we just be honest here? It was stressful.
Maybe you guys were worried. I was fine.
But that Game 7, I mean, it's just an amazing, amazing game. But I've heard these rumors that when there was that rain delay, and down in the dugout, the clubhouse, Jason Hayward gave a speech. Were you down there for that moment? And if so, can you, because I know it's going to be in the Disney movie someday, but can you give us a little taste? What happened there?
Well, I wasn't there.
Okay.
And it was very, very stressful. In fact, the Monday after the World Series, I woke up at 3 in the morning and having this terrible nightmare that we had just lost Game 7 of the World Series. And I told my wife in the morning, I'm like, honey, I had this terrible nightmare. It's so unfair. I'm having a dream about a game we won 4 days ago. And she said, you have postseason stress disorder. I'm like, I think there's something to that. But, back to Jason Hayward, one of the most miraculous, one of the most amazing parts of that game and our season was, Jason Hayward was a very highly paid free agent that came in who had just a terrible season. And but when the team needed him, he stepped up and got all the guys to go into the weight room in Cleveland and have a players-only meeting. And I think what's interesting about that was it was the only players-only meeting of the whole season. Wow. And he called everyone together, no coaches, nobody, no trainers, anything else, and just got the guys to refocus. And if you would have said to me in April of last year that Jason Hayward's biggest contribution, perhaps, to the Cubs winning the World Series will have nothing to do with what he does on the field, I wouldn't understand. I wouldn't believe it. But things happen in a way that just you can't explain sometimes.
That's amazing. Now, one of the things that I admire so much about you and the organization of the Cubs is any other organization. Let's take the Dallas Cowboys. Barely anybody knows who the coach is. They know Jerry Jones, the owner. They don't know who the general manager is. But you've created this culture, this environment where we know Coach Madden, we know Theo, we know Kenny, and we know the Ricketts, Tom Ricketts and the family. How have you done that? How have you not allowed ego to get in the way? And what's the leadership principle behind that?
Well, I think that, and we talk about this, I think that there's a natural element to it. People have to be able to keep their egos in check. But we also talk about it actively when you get attention or when you get an article written about you or a television story about you. When people ask you those questions, make sure you're pushing down that credit. The fact is that there are hundreds of people that contributed to that World Series on and off the field. And you need to remember that without everybody pulling their weight through all the lean years, you're not there.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about this at the end of the season. I sat down with Crane and Theo, and we talked about, let's make sure that when we do speak to a writer or an author, we trust them. And we trust them not to tell the story in a way that makes anyone look too good or anyone look too bad, because in the grand scheme, we were all in it together the whole time. And we don't want to create a negative atmosphere out of something that was so beautiful. So I think we've done that fairly effectively so far, but we work on it every day.
Well, you take that, kind of pushing it down to the parade, where 5 million people felt a part of this story. I mean, you might not see this, but I'm like right over here. So it's just amazing, you know. It's just fantastic. But what was that like to have 5 million people in the city of Chicago?
That was an amazing day, and you know, the 5 million number, it's kind of unaudited. You know, I'm not sure there was exactly 5 million people there, but I have no doubt it was the largest gathering in the history of the Western Hemisphere, at least.
Yes.
And it's certainly maybe the largest gathering of happy people of all time. You know, I really believe that. But the parade was incredible. You know, it's a funny story. I was holding the trophy as the bus pulled out up at Wrigley, and I wasn't looking, and immediately got hit by like a lion that's going across the street, hit the trophy and knocked me back a little bit, and I'm like, oh, this would be the Cubs' luck, right? Win the World Series, get electrocuted by your own trophy. But in any case, it was amazing all the way down Michigan Avenue. I was just thinking, like, who gets to do this? I mean, what an incredible moment in time, and what an incredible opportunity. Just you know, you just try to absorb as much as you can. It happened so fast, and it was just really incredible.
And the celebration has just continued, and with the ring ceremony, and I thought maybe you could just tell us a little bit, because again, you did something so different where everyone who played a part in the organization got the chance to get their own ring. And just would you maybe tell us a little bit about the ring and just kind of the significance of it?
Yeah, that is our ring. I got one here.
What?
Sometimes I kind of keep it in my pocket like Frodo from Lord of the Rings. Like I don't wear it everywhere, but well, one of the things.
Just gonna touch that.
One of the things that. Yeah. So one of the things that we did, we made sure that everybody who works with the organization.
Sorry.
And right, actually, that's actually my fake ring I bring for people that might. We gave out 1,908 rings, which is symbolic for 1908, the last time we won. And but most importantly, like if you go down to the field, you'll see that all the ushers and parking lot attendants and Wrigley's different. I don't know how many other ballparks you've been to, but Wrigley is different in the sense that our game day staff, our ushers, our security guards, our parking lot attendants, they're a big part of the experience. We're a high touch, you know, we want you to feel welcome. We are the friendly confines. And one of the very first things I said to the organization was, you know, the Chicago Cubs can be having a bad season, but no one has a bad day at Wrigley Field. And we got to live by that, and we got to walk that walk. And so they're so important to us. It would have been unthinkable to create rings for the players and a lot of the business executives and leave out the people that make the day at Wrigley so special.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay. Do a couple rapid fire questions, and then they're gonna help me with something that they don't know about just yet. But first rapid fire question, favorite moment outside of winning the World Series in last season?
Maybe Wilson Contreras, first at bat.
Yes, come on.
That was special. He's a special young man, and great way to launch his career.
Okay, favorite opposing player to see?
Wow, Clayton Kershaw is an amazing, one of the greatest players of all time. I hate to see him because typically we're playing against him when I see him, but he's pretty special. Obviously, Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, those guys too.
Definitely. Okay. You know, if there was like a 37-year-old, 5'11",
Are you left-handed?
I can be. Throws 48 mile per hour, like somewhere around the strike zone. What are the chances throwing on a first pitch of a game?
Oh, I don't know.
Sorry, you don't have to answer. You don't have to answer. You can though. Okay, all right. So here's what I want to do. I had this moment. I was at Game 5 of the World Series. Someone gave me a ticket. It was amazing. Eddie Vedder sang the 7th inning stretch. You know, the great voice. And then I had this thought: what if this year in the World Series, we all were just in the bleachers and we sang the 7th inning stretch song? So I thought maybe we could just try out for you right now. So, hey, Tracy, can you got the organ maybe? So you all gonna help me with this, all right? Let's go. This is our chance. This is our chance, all right? All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back. It's a root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes are out at the old ball game. Well done, Willow! Wow!
Tom, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's thank Tom Ricketts one more time.